Before we begin, let me just make something very clear. Just because I think the book is disappointing doesn't mean I think it's bad. Overall, I think the book is really good. It's just not what I was expecting. Because whenever you hear the creators of the Witcher TV show, the cast, the crew, whenever they talk about The Witcher, they mention the Blood of Elves and how it's sort of the beginning point. So I was thinking, okay, this book is going to show the beginning of the Witcher story, is going to set up the main storyline, and it's going to be really big and expansive. And whilst there are elements of a bigger, expansive world, the overall story is quite self-contained. And the overall story for the book is really good. I enjoyed it. But what I'm trying to say is that when I was reading the book, I was just disappointed at how small scale it was. Not that that's a bad thing, because like I said, it's good. It's just that it wasn't what I was expecting. Welcome back to another Witcher book review. I finally got round to finishing The Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski, and yeah, it's a really good book. Necklace is on. I'm afraid there's going to be no Witcher singing today because there's not really any more new Witcher songs until Season 2 comes out, but also, the way this book is structured, it's not really in the short story format like the other two books where I could just end each of the main stories by singing a little transition song. Instead, this is pretty much just a standard novel, beginning, middle, end. So yeah, unfortunately, no Witcher singing. Unless you want me to. I can just bust out a tosser coin to your Witcher, if you want me to. Spoilers for the book and TV show, because I mean, I'm literally reviewing the major plot points of the book, so if you haven't read the book, go read the book. But yes, as I've said, this book is essentially a character piece for the character of Ciri. We get to see her stubborn side, we get to see her princess side, we get to see her become a Witcher student, we see her become a student in the magical arts, and overall, I really like the character of Ciri. I think she's really interesting to read, she's funny, she's witty, she's bratty, but also I like seeing the feminine side to her. And what I really liked was her blossoming relationship between her mentors. I really liked her relationship with Geralt, with Triss, with Yennefer. They were all really good and dynamic relationships, and a lot of fun, especially since Geralt was like her father figure, Triss was like her older sister, and Yennefer was essentially her mother. I liked the little scenes with her training in Kaer Morhen with Lambert and Eskel and Vesemir, although I wish we got a little bit more of Vesemir since he isn't in the book as much as I'd like him to be, but I like how he is sort of like the big granddad of like the entire Witcher family. I think that's really good fun. The actual training scenes themselves were also really good. I liked the whole bit where she's talking to Geralt about the pirouette, half pirouette, spin. All that stuff was really fun. I like Ciri triumphing over her struggles. It's all really good. I will say, I was surprised that Ciri didn't become a fully fledged Witcher by the end, because that's what I was expecting, since in the Witcher 3 video game, which I haven't played, but I've seen, bits and pieces of, she is a Witcher. So I was expecting that transformation to happen in this book while she was at Kaer Morhen, but it doesn't happen. And the story itself started to get really interesting once Triss arrived, because not only did Triss add the perspective of her being super horny for Geralt, I mean, like, oh my god, Sapkowski, you can tone it down. But also the growing bond between Triss and Ciri was also really nice, since it was a nice counterbalance to the hyper-masculinity of Kaer Morhen. But I also like the theme of Triss teaching Ciri not to be ashamed of her femininity, which Yennefer goes on to continue later on throughout the novel. And yes, as a whole, I like Ciri's story of her becoming more confident, growing in her combat forms, and learning magic at the end. It's a nice story for Ciri. But I will say, I was disappointed in the amount of, the little amount of stuff we got with Geralt, because I mean, Geralt's in the book, but he's not really in the book. Reading The Blood of Elves and then looking back at The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny, I missed the stories from Geralt's perspective. Geralt being that monster hunter, the Witcher, going out, hunting monsters, killing things. Being inside his head, getting that sense of loneliness and that lone wolf mentality of I can never be, anyone's companion, I have to be alone. I like that stuff, and I missed it in this book. We get tiny glimpses of it, and I like seeing Geralt's growing role as a parental figure for Ciri, but just, there wasn't enough of that. We weren't in Geralt's headspace enough, and I know the book is focused on Ciri, which is fine, but I wish we got a bit more Geralt, because, I mean, Geralt's awesome. The song of the white wolf is cold as driven snow. See, I told you I'd managed to sneak in a Witcher song in there. Because I'm not gonna lie, Geralt's role in this book is very minimal. Yes, he's a parental figure for Ciri, but he also goes on this quest to find Rience, who's looking for him and Ciri, and just, to me, that part didn't really lead anywhere. And I have a question about Rience. Is Rience meant to be the Cahir character in The Witcher Season 1? Because why is he after Ciri? And just, I don't know. To me, there was a lot more questions raised than answers, and I wish we got a bit more answers in this book. Because aside from Geralt hunting Rience and fighting him and jumping through portals only for Rience to disappear at the end, that plotline didn't really go anywhere, and it just felt like you'll find out in the next book, and just, I don't know, I wish there was a more complete arc with that. Like, maybe if the story led to Geralt finding out who the man at the top was, or getting Nilfgaard more involved in the plot, I think that just would have been a much stronger way to do it. Because what it essentially is just Geralt chases after Rience, he beats him up for a bit, and then Rience just disappears, and it's like, okay, great. Why did we have to read this? Okay, do you remember how in the Sword of Destiny I said I don't like the Yennefer character and how I think she's a hoe? Yeah, I take that back, sort of, not really. Like, this book made me like her a lot more, since we get to see that motherly, affectionate side to her, which I do like, since Yennefer is a naturally cold and reserved person, and you can see that in her personality in the Blood of Elves, but you can see her slowly shift and grow out. Like, her relationship with Ciri is a bit cold and reserved, but also, she has that tenderness, she has that warmth, and I like the character a lot more in this book than I did in the Sword of Destiny. And one of the continuing through lines throughout the Witcher books that I think Sapkowski is really good at is the world building. I like the way the characters interact with one another, how the different races interact with one another, the culture of the continent. I like it a lot. Especially at the beginning when Dandelion's performing in this concert, and then like you have the dwarves there, the men there, the elves there, and they all just start bickering amongst themselves, like talking whether if Dandelion's just making all this shit up about Ciri and Geralt, if Ciri really is the child surprise, and then the dwarves and the elves start bickering, and the overall world building is really good. Like, I like the bit also when Triss, Geralt, and Ciri are walking along the road. They run into Yarp and Zigrin from the Sword of Destiny, and then they again start talking about the politics of the continent between the dwarves and the elves, and then they start talking about the story of the Blood of Elves. Like, that's all really good world building stuff that I thoroughly enjoyed in this novel. And when watching the trailer for The Witcher Season 2, I essentially just went, oh, what I'm seeing on screen is just the Blood of Elves. Well, minus the fact that the first episode is going to adapt the Grain of True story from, I think, The Last Wish. That's one of my favorite stories. If you guys haven't seen my video on that, go watch it, because I mean, I love that story, that twisted warped tale of Beauty and the Beast. But yes, season 2 of The Witcher just looks like it's going to be the Blood of Elves expanded and much more action packed and with a lot more character and heart, and that's just really great. Because whilst I like the training stuff in the book, it is sort of just done in montage form, where I feel like in the show they're going to expand upon it a lot more. And my prediction for The Witcher season 2 is that it's going to be an expansion of the Blood of Elves, because looking at the list of titles for the episodes in season 2, which they released during WitcherCon, they essentially draw a lot of lines from the Blood of Elves. Especially the line Dear Friend, which is a line literally ripped from Blood of Elves, because that's how Geralt refers to Yennefer in their letters, and just, I think that's really good fun. I can't wait for The Witcher Season 2, because I mean, I love me some Henry Cavill as Geralt. The series itself looks really good, and just, I can't wait for Season 2 of The Witcher, especially since if it's going to be the Blood of Elves, but, you know, just a much bigger, expanded version of it, I'll be happy with that. Because like I said, although the book didn't meet my expectations, and it was slightly disappointing in terms of the overall storyline for The Witcher, the actual book itself is really good, and I really enjoyed it, and having that expanded into a 8-season series is going to be good fun. And overall, The Blood of Elves is a good book, but it is my least favourite Witcher book as of right now, because I just preferred the short story format the first 2 books had. But yeah, that's what I think of The Blood of Elves. It's a good book, I like it, but what do you guys think? Have you guys read the book? Are you excited for The Witcher Season 2? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media, all that good stuff, it's all in the description. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.